there, welcome to Magnetic Mama, the podcast where we parent with nervous system wisdom, soul-led grit, and zero shame. I'm Steph, a holistic nurse, writer, and a mum who is keeping it real in the chaos. I'm giving you permission to raise resilient kids without losing yourself, because when you thrive, your kids can too. So let's get into the messy middle and find our magic. Hey there, and welcome back to Magnetic Mama. Today's episode is a little bit different. It's not super structured, it's not polished, and it's not perfectly researched because it's real-time reflection. We are currently in Victoria, in Australia. We're in the first set of holidays of the school year, which happens to land on Easter. And funnily enough, what I've noticed in Victoria is everyone goes camping, and I'm assuming, not everyone, okay, but like there is a mass exodus out into the camping fields of Victoria during Easter long weekend or is school holidays in general. And I'm assuming it's because the weather is kind of on its last legs, like summer's finished, autumn's here, and before the weather gets super cold, everyone wants to get their last sort of stint at the outdoors. So this year we jumped on the bandwagon and we went camping. And I grew up camping. I love camping. But our camping was pretty different back in my day to the camping we've been doing, because we have a camper van and we stayed in caravan parks, whereas back in my day, our camping expeditions included filling up our little ski boats on the Murray and packing all our camping gear that we needed for a week, and we headed up to a sandbar on the other side of the river, and it was free. We didn't pay for it, and that was our camping, just literally on a sandbar with our boats and the kangaroos on Kataraka Island, like very old school camping. But anyway, I digress. Back to school holidays, Easter camping with my kids and my family and their friends. And it was something really interesting dawned on me about camping. These holidays got me thinking about the idea of legacy parenting, but not in the way that we usually think about it. Not in achievements, not in outcomes, not in what our kids are going to become, but more about what they feel and what they remember and what gets imprinted into their nervous system through ordinary, slightly chaotic, very human moments. Because here's what I know and what I'm continually learning and evolving, and maybe next week my perception will change, but for now, what I know about breaking generational cycles and cleaning up our generational wounds, it's not actually happening in the planned perfect moments. It kind of naturally evolves in the messy moments, And let me tell you, camping for me is very messy. Everything's dirty, dusty, rainy, windy, So first of all, over the Easter weekend, we went camping to the Grampians, which is the west side of Victoria in the glorious, glorious rock formations of the Grampians. We did a little bit of rock climbing with the ropes. Thanks, Gerardo. And we did a little bushwalk, and it was like glorious fresh air. We had winery dinner, and like the kids loved it. Then we got home slightly unpacked, half unpacked, and then repacked and went over to the east side to Venus Bay, which is more coastal, beautiful, long beaches with sand dunes. It's divine. But if anyone knows Venus Bay, you'll know that the weather can turn. And I tell you, it did. Well, to be fair, when I was checking the weather all week, it was like, it's not ideal, but she'll be right. On the morning that we were packing the camper van, getting ready to go, it was like rain all weekend. And I thought, ooh, not great, but we'll give it a go. And rain it did, wind it did, sideways kind of hail, and the kind of weather where the logical person would be, why did you do that? Let's pack up and go home. And this is not relaxing, and I definitely thought that more than once throughout this weekend. And there was this moment where there was this tiny bit of sunshine. And I was like, all right, let's go try and hit the beach for this moment of clear skies. And yeah, there was clear skies for a second. And then at what seemed like out of nowhere, there was this torrential rain that had like hardcore little teeny tiny hail slash like snowflakes, proper howling wind and sand whipping, where we literally dove for the sand dunes for safety. And I remember thinking, what the hell? Where did that come from? And like, but like, this is just nuts. But the kids were in hysterics. They were laughing. They were rolling around. They were alive. They were present and they were in it. And it was the talk for the rest of the camp, that's for sure. And it's the moments like these that stay with us because it wasn't comfortable. We were cold. We were sand whipped. We were wet. And the wind just kept going. It wasn't planned, and it was definitely not something I would have chosen if I had tried to create the perfect family memory. But you know what? It was real. And I think that's it. That is exactly what breaks the cycles. Not the curated moments, not the, structured, planned ones. Those real, unexpected moments just stay with you. And so when I kind of reflected on this and zoomed out, it made so much sense, right? Like, because kids don't actually want perfection. And, in fact, they probably prefer conditions that have movement, novelty, shared experience, this like little bit of risk and a little bit of unpredictability. And that's what actually lights up their nervous system in a healthy way. That's what creates this aliveness. And that's where the generational patterns can come in. Because so many of us, potentially so many of us, but me in particular, grew up in homes where unpredictability wasn't safe, where chaos meant something was wrong, and where a storm, literal or emotional, meant danger. So we can learn to control things, to schedule things, to optimize things, and we bring that into our parenting. We make everything so structured and scheduled, managed and safe. Oh my God, how are not the whole modern parenting world like obsessed with trying to wrap our kids in bubble wrap and keep them safe? Like, it's the conundrum. It's the conundrum. We're in it. And there's a place for that. And I'm definitely not saying go chuck your kids in risky situations and leave them to fend for themselves. But when it comes to everything, we accidentally pass on the very anxiety we were trying to heal in the first place. That's the cycle. But those wild, unplanned moments, that's where we get to rewire it. So, interestingly, as I said, I grew up camping on the river. We had to fend for ourselves, make up our own games, work it out. Parents were like, go sort yourselves out. So our camping is a bit different. We now go to caravan parks, and this thing happened a few years, 2 summers ago. We went and stayed over in Port Elliot in South Australia, drove the camper van over, set up for a few days, stayed with some friends, and the weirdest thing happened. It was like cheap as chips holiday, super unplanned, super unorganized, just rocked up. Our friends were there. And the kids on the way home said that was the best holiday they've ever had. Now, my family and I, my kids and I, my husband and I, we have done world travel. Like my kids have been to some places that I know many adults haven't been. They have been through the US, over in Canada, through Europe, done amazing ski trips in Japan. Like we've had incredible trips. Yet the highlight of their little lives so far is the camp back in that day was the caravan park camping over summer in Port Elliot. I was like, what? Seriously? We spent all that money and time doing these amazing things and you want to just go stay in a caravan park? Cool. But what that helped me to realize and shifted in me that kids don't need organizing. They don't need us hovering, particularly in the tween and teenagers. They just, in the caravan parks, they all kind of like find each other and it becomes this like caravan park tribe. And they love it. They ride their bikes or their scooters or I often take the skateboards, whatever. And they just go and make up their own games. All different ages, different families, no labels, no pressure. And suddenly they're gone for hours and they come back sandy, tired, happy, full of stories and little incidences that happened during the day. And it, it just really made me think and also realize, why does this feel so different to our everyday life? Because I think it's just low stakes. There's no performance. No one's watching. No one's curating the experience. It's just play. Tween teen play. And it's connection. And then there's this sense of freedom. And from a nervous system perspective, that's not just fun, that's regulating. That's regulation for them and for us as the parents. And that's what a regulated parent looks like, by the way. Not perfect, not in control of everything, just present enough to let things happen. Now, I'm not saying switch off and don't pay attention. I'm just saying you can sit back, relax, and watch them thrive in a caravan park, and they will love it. And something else really cool happened in our little camping expedition over these school holidays. So we had that big storm and then it proceeded to rain most of the rest of the holidays, and it was rest of the day in the campground and it was cold. So we went up to the local little pub and had dinner and the kids played pool, and the girls of the little camp group decided they wanted a girl car ride back to the camp. So we did. The girls jumped in my car and I drove them home, and the boys jumped in the dad's cars and they drove home. And something very, very funny happened, which I think is honestly one of the most underrated tools we have as parents of tweens and teens. We had this very gorgeous moment driving in the car, listening to music, and I will confess the music I was playing was not very appropriate for teenage ears, but I've had this thing with my kids where I've got a secret song that I loved as a teenager, which was very inappropriate. And every now and then I put it on in the car and I tell the kids, don't tell anyone I played this song, all right? And so the girls were like, Mom, put the song on. So I did. Sorry, other parents. It was very inappropriate. What happened was hilarious. Everyone was singing, loud, off key, chair dancing, laughing. No one's trying to have a deep conversation, but at the same time, something really beautiful was happening. We were just connecting. And there's like this sense of co-regulation. There's safety being built without even trying. Because as our kids move into those tweens and teen years, connections change, like they're growing into they're not adults, but they're moving into that phase where they're expanding their identity, stretching their boundaries, finding out who they are in the context of this world, which means our relationships with them as parents is changing too. So if we are carrying patterns from our own childhood where connection felt conditional or communication felt loaded, we can sometimes push too hard for the big talks, like sex, drugs, alcohol, partying, friendships, partnerships, relationships, all that's the big, big things rather than recognizing that's not actually how teens work. Connection for them looks like sit next to me, be with me without any pressure. And that's where they soften. So when we're belting out that song on the way home, we also saw a wombat, which was awesome. And, we're all laughing and connecting and like they're just safe. My sense was they felt safe. And that's where we repair quietly without even naming it. And this is where the deeper reflection has landed for me. We've been taught, and a lot of us absorb this from our own upbringing and conditioning, that good parenting means doing more. But let me tell you, my parents probably did less and gave me more space. So, that's something to bring on. But in my attempt to heal wounds of my past and trying to give my kids what I didn't have, I tried to do more activities, more input, more structure, more optimization. And I think for a lot of us who are actively trying to break generational patterns, we can overcorrect. And we try so hard. I am so guilty of this, to give our kids what we didn't have, that we feel every moment. We overparent out of love and out of fear. And what if breaking the cycle actually looks like less? Think back to the 80s, like people just like go outside. I mean, that was my grandma's mantra. Go outside, go play outside. Don't come inside until it's dark. Back in my day, like less pressure, less control, less perfection, and more presence, shared experiences, space, real unscripted life. Because those stormy moments, e.g. in the caravan park, create those friendships, the car sing-alongs. That's what builds memory and connection. That's what builds a nervous system that feels safe in the world. And look, we're in a pretty unsafe world at the moment. Who knows what's going to happen? But if we have a sense of personal safety, then that gives you a leg up. And I want to say this gently because I know so many parents are working so hard, trying to get it all right, trying to not repeat what was done to you, trying to break those generational patterns that go back to the ancestors, And that work is real and it's necessary and it matters, right? But parenting legacy isn't built on perfection. I feel like it's more built on how you show up, how you respond in hard moments, and how you repair when you get it wrong, and how you just let your life be life, messy, real, and enough. Give yourself that permission to just chill a bit and let life be life without trying to control and manage everything. Because legacy isn't what you planned. It's kind of more of what they felt. So If you are in a season where things feel messy, where it's not all going to plan, where you're questioning if you're actually breaking the cycle or just repeating it in a different way, been there, done that, and still learning, I promise. Just pause. And I hope sharing this experience with you gives you permission to be like, yeah, it's okay. I don't have to be perfect. I don't have to curate every moment, because if you're showing up, if you're being present, if you're sharing moments, even the chaotic ones, laughing, repairing when things go wrong or sideways, that is breaking the cycles. That is where you're building something that your parents maybe couldn't give you. A human who feels safe to be themselves in the world. Promise you, that is a legacy your kids will thank you for. So, if this is something you want more support with, I have curated a little program with some tools for regulation and repair to help build confidence in just being okay with being enough. If this is something you want more support with, more steadiness, more tools for regulation and repair, more confidence that you're actually changing things, that's exactly where I go a little bit deeper into a program that I've created called the Nervous System Reset for Parents. I'll pop the link in the show notes. It's just a 1-hour workshop, hopefully to help you find space and tools to just bring you back into the present moment, to take some time to listen to yourself, because my belief is that we all intuitively know, right? But sometimes society, conditioning, environment, life, DNA, ancestral, generational wounds, like it gets noisy in there. And yet, if we just kind of like take the time to be present and listen to ourselves, we actually have all the answers inside. So I'm not here to tell you what to do, but this program might be a stepping stone into helping you build confidence in listening, re-listening to your intuition and yourself, because you're the parent. You know better, your kids better than anyone. So it's not to make you perfect, but it is to help demonstrate how showing up regulated and more connected is going to help break generational cycles, and you can do it yourself. So thanks for being here. Just letting you know, I recorded this last time and I had to re-record it again. So thank you for listening, and I will see you in the next episode. Thanks for listening to Magnetic Mama. If this resonated, leave a comment. I love to read every single one. And for deeper support, don't forget to check out the community on Substack. You can find the link in the show notes. But if you're not ready for that, just hit follow. It's free and it keeps the conversation of parents in the messy middle going. So see you in the next one.